What's up, everyone? If you thought you did some stupid moves as a white belt, I'm about to show you some things that'll make you feel a whole lot better. Some of the dumbass moves I used to do as a white belt take everything to a whole new level. I was putting myself in triangles every day. My thighs were covered in massive bruises, and we almost like crippled the poor guy because of just all the neck cranks we were doing. Honestly, I have no idea how I survived that part of my jiu-jitsu journey. I'm going to show you the good, the bad, the ugly, and honestly, some of the moves might be worse than you might think. And if you don't know me, my name's Sean. I'm a BJJ black belt, and I'm a founder of the BJJ education app, Jiu-Jitsu. So to start things out, I'm just going to give some background of where most of these moves came from and what things were like when I was a white belt. When I started training, like in 2003, or it was like the fall of 2002, spring of 2003, I was up at college up in like Western New York, like basically the middle of nowhere. Like it was like west of Buffalo. Like it wasn't a real like city or anything. Very small college town. In that town, they happened to have like a karate program, and in that karate program, they had katas and stuff like that, but they also had like a grappling program, and that's how I like discovered grappling. Not really Brazilian Jiu Jitsu at this point, but that's where things kind of kicked off for me. And at this time, I just want to clarify: there was no like YouTube or like anything like that. Like you didn't even have like streaming video really at this time. So the first technique I learned, and it was kind of like at around this time in class, they had an arm lock, like from mount and like close guard, but it was like missing some key details. They had key locks, but the one move in particular I'm talking about here is they had a like the standard way of breaking close guard. So the way that would work would be you're in someone's close guard, and then you look back, and you try to see like which way their ankles are locked. So you see like which ankle's on top. So if this ankle is on top, I take my hand and I stick it back right between the legs, and then I like throw their legs by, and then I just like pass immediately. So like that was the move, and it was kind of funny because like from close guard you had like that arm lock I mentioned, and you had a cross collar choke, but there's an obvious move missing here, and that is the triangle choke. And that wasn't a thing that was like done or known at this school. So this pass, like this throwing the legs by and sticking your arm through, like actually worked pretty well. And it would get kind of funny because you'd be rolling with someone, and then you would see them, they would look back, and you would be like, oh no, yeah. Like he sees like which way my ankles are locked. So then you would like switch which ways your ankles are locked. It was kind of funny. But as I was like looking into making this video, I found out about something, and it's called like the Gracie Gift. So the Gracie Gift is a little bit different. Let me just show you what the Gracie Gift is all about. So here it is, the legendary Ilio Gracie sticking his arm underneath, and he's like putting himself into a triangle and then immediately going into like a stack pass from there. But that's not the interesting part. That's not why it's called like the Gracie Gift. According to legend here, the Gracies taught this pass without key details to make it actually work. It's ironically called the Gracie Gift because it gives the guard player a free triangle. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I just found some other articles about like, it's fake. There's like missing key details and stuff. And this actually got me thinking about it. This kind of idea here about like putting yourself in a triangle made me think of, I remember years ago, I tried to find videos on this, but I couldn't. But I remember years ago, like Tito Ortiz, when he would go to seminars, he would either at the end of the seminar or at some point, he would basically challenge the class. He'd be like, I bet you no one can finish me like in a triangle choke. So what he would do was he would like let anyone in the class put him in a full-blown triangle choke, and then he had his escape that he basically would do to everyone. Like I don't know if anyone tapped him in class. So he was like really hard the triangle. So it got me thinking, like, as much as I'm, shitty on this technique, like the whole putting your arm back, what if you have a really good triangle defense? Like you're one of those guys with a thick neck and everything, and you're not able to stand up and pass the conventional way. Maybe it's not completely useless. I don't know. I just think it's not the worst move, but if you're not familiar with triangles at all, then probably not a move you want to invest in. So it was through that karate school I first got into, grappling. But, I wanted to keep doing it. And I kept looking on the internet for, you know, other martial arts out there. And I found out about Brazilian Jiu Jitsu through ShareDog. It's a website, this is before Reddit. So they had on there, they had like a Hoist Gracie highlight video of him like going through the UFC and just like using Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And I'm like, I gotta train this. Up where I was going to school, there was like a purple belt, supposedly an hour and a half away or something like that. I didn't have a car. So I started to look for places I could train when I, went back home for summer break. And that's when I found out about, Serra Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And like the first class I go to, Matt Serra's there, he's teaching, and he teaches like teaches like the elbow escape, and then shortly afterwards, I don't remember which class it was, but I learned the triangle choke. And I also learned that proper ways to pass guard, and sticking your arm into a triangle choke was not one of them. So I trained like obsessively that summer as much as my body could take it, which was like 4 or 5 days a week. When I go back to college the following semester, go to the karate school, and then I train with this guy who is basically kicking my ass all the time. And, I see him looking back, he's going for the move, and I'm like, here it comes. Sticks his arm back, put on the triangle choke, get the submission. And I remember afterwards, like the sensei was like, who showed you that? Like seemingly like surprised, like it's some secret or something. But I realized then obviously this karate school wasn't it. So I kept looking for other ways to train up there. And I found out about this, grappling club. Actually, it was called the Ground Fighting Club at the college, and it was like ran in the gym. You just rolled out some mats, and it was run by like a philosophy professor, and there were some like other students who were like wrestlers who would go there, and like some townies would show up, And I said philosophy professor, but like he also happened to be into powerlifting and was jacked. Like all these guys were bigger than me. I was like 155 pounds, and it was like in this club where this is the source of all the other shitty moves I'm going to go through. But the next move was actually another sort of guard break pass. And, I said it was like a club, but no one really taught anything. You just we put timers on and we would just roll. And then occasionally someone would like show someone a move or something. But the standard way that was taught to like deal with closed guard was to like, you just dig your elbow in someone's thighs, and you'd make it really uncomfortable, and then the person would just like open their closed guard basically. And I had my triangle choke, but like these people were bigger than me, they were stronger. I was still a white belt, and occasionally I had some success, but truth is it really kind of like sucked. Like I remember particularly I had this huge bruise, and this guy was like digging his elbow right into it, and I'm just like, okay, fine, like you can open my closed guard. Was sort of the way I kind of thought of it, is like this hurts or whatever, let me just open my closed guard. So I found this clip of Brian Glick kind of talking about the technique, and he brings up a good point.
To be able to open their feet than it does to just have like one single point. Okay, so in terms of just pure mechanics, it's not a good idea. Okay, next, as most people know, and this has been discussed a lot, like it's just a jerk move, like you're not, if George is insistent on keeping his guard closed, like no amount of like digging and trying to find a pressure point on the inside of his thigh is gonna do anything more than just piss him off. Okay.
So like, here's the thing. It's kind of funny. Like, first of all, I mentioned earlier, like I would just open my thigh, open my guard when people would do this, but, it says like piss him off, but we were like so stupid at this club. Like this was the technique, and it's like, oh, you got me. Like it hurts. And the other point I wanted to make, like you said, no amount of pain is going to make them open their closed guard. I think this is an example of his technique that like might work in training because you're just like annoyed with the pain and like what someone's doing to you. But it like you're in a competition, or you, God forbid, a fight, or even MMA or something, like no one's gonna open their closed guard because it's like slightly uncomfortable. But when you have someone like bigger and stronger than you, like habitually just digging into your bruises, and you're training, and you're like, okay, fine, like I'll play open guard. So the next technique kind of taught and done at this grappling club was like the Mark Coleman style neck crank. You know, you would basically like grab the when you're in closed guard, you basically get behind their neck and you would try to create pressure, down pressure, where they would have to open their closed guard and um, go from there. Like it didn't really tap anyone at the club, but it would just make things uncomfortable and like you would open your closed guard. Here's a quick example of what it looks like.
And some people don't feel it, but they need to tap it in forward. Last one.
So that's an extreme form and like we'll probably tap someone. But I feel like this is another move that only works if you're like Mark Coleman or something. Like you're significantly, or at least bigger and stronger, or like the other person doesn't know jujitsu and like lets them do this to you. But this is the sort of technique that was like really common at the club. And I mentioned this technique in the previous one. Like I knew some jujitsu, like I knew this wasn't it. I didn't do these moves, but everyone at the club was doing him to each other and stuff. And like I would try to show people technique and stuff, but like the prevalent things that would happen were like these neck cranks. And I remember someone at the club, like from just being neck cranked, this like poor like townie, I think he was like mid late 20s, just being habitually neck cranked, and he was like just like stiff and his neck was jacked. Like I still have neck pain from that time, but this guy, I don't know. He can't be. I hope he's okay. If you're out there, I hope you're okay. So that brings me to the last technique, and in my mind, by far the worst. So in this kind of ground fighting club, there was this one like mysterious figure who lived in town. He claimed to be like a brown belt, and I trained with him once, and he was like, he was better than me, but he wasn't that much better than me. But he wouldn't really roll with us, and occasionally he would like show up and show someone some techniques and stuff. And one of the moves he showed was you would basically like when you're in someone's closed guard, yet again, when you're in someone's closed guard, you kind of put your hands on their lower abdomen and you kind of like, like you're making pizza, you kind of just push up the fat and then you like grab it and you grab the skin and you just kind of roll it up there and you just like make it really uncomfortable. And then the person like opens their closed guard because it's so uncomfortable. And some people in the club would do that, but like in a club where we like pretty much just did dick moves, like we knew that this was a dick move. So like we didn't really do it. I remember some people kind of tried, but it was just a terrible thing to do. Like again, it was the most extreme example of you make them uncomfortable. Like no one's gonna open their closed guard in a fight, like because you're giving them like, like an Indian burn or something. And in hindsight, this like brown belt, I remember asking him once, like where he got his brown belt, and he was like Brazil, and I was like, oh wow, of course. Like I actually believed it at the time, but in hindsight, it's ridiculous. Like there's no way this guy was a brown belt. But that was by far the worst move. I tried to Google like to see if like there's other people talking about this move, any examples of it anywhere, but I couldn't. So if you've ever experienced this weird like gut grab move, please let me know in the comments. I'm curious. But what's the takeaway with all these like shitty jujitsu moves? Well, what I would say is you need to like test your techniques and you need to take ownership of your own training and your own development in jujitsu. Like you might be somewhere where you might have questions whether you're learning the best techniques or not, but nowadays with YouTube and instructionals and like flow grappling, you can watch the highest levels of competition. You can see what techniques are working at the highest levels, and you'll see techniques that aren't being seen, like this like elbow in the thigh and gut grab and stuff like that. And then you can also test the techniques you're doing outside of your gym through competition, other gyms, open mats, things like that. So just let me know in the comments like other moves I may have missed that you learned as a white belt, and thank you so much. Have a good one.